And as you do so, establish those linkages. The first and the second one should have some links. So, for example, you go to the classroom. That is why we say review the relevant previous knowledge. And once you are done with that, you start building on the RPK. And then we move on to the third step. And then the fourth step. And then the fifth step. And so there's that sequencing of events. You don't just start anyhow. You present in such a way that where you have to bring in a machine, equipment, or teaching learning resource, they come at the right time, so that the meaning of the concept will be well grasped. There's continuity apart from sequencing. So we are trying to say that that particular principle says that as you move from step 1 to step 2 to step 3, yes, they have been sequenced, but you should continue from the previous one. And remember that where the first step ends, the second step starts. And so you don't just start teaching anyhow. You should follow a particular sequence. That is why when the learners or children start counting, they don't start counting from 10. They start from 1, they move to 2, they go to 3 in that order. So remember, we have that principle of sequencing and continuity. We have another principle that says, principle of active learning environment. Principle of active learning environment. If you go to the classroom and the learning environment is not serene, if the learning environment is not conducive, if the learners are now being asked to participate in the presentation, the environment will be boring, because it is the teacher who always do the talking and all the activities. What we are trying to say is that let the environment be active. That is to say, involve the learners. And somebody will say, how do I involve the learners? You don't answer every question that is posed to you. When a question is posed, you have to give the question back to the learners. And before you realize, there is a discussion on the topic, and everybody will participate. Everybody will participate, and once they get to know that they are part of the discussion, the environment will be active. Do not let your learning environment be passive. If it becomes passive, it is always the teacher who will be presenting, and the learners will now be sitting down unconcerned. But where the learners think that we are going to be involved, then they will be ready to also participate in the learning. So what I am trying to say is that let the learning environment be learner-centered. Let the learning environment be learner-centered, where the learners will do most of the work, and the teacher's role in this regard will be to facilitate the teaching and learning process. Another principle that we can also talk of whenever we talk of effective teaching has to do with the principle of interest. Principle of interest. The teacher goes to the classroom to teach, and per the demeanor of this teacher, nobody is ready to pursue this particular subject or course at a higher level. Because you can gather from the demeanor of the teacher that he or she is not interested in what is being presented. So if the teacher does not show any interest in whatever is being presented, how would the learners show any interest? And so what we are trying to say is that let your presentation be lively, show interest in what you are presenting. Would the learners, even if the concept you are presenting is very difficult, make it simpler. Let the presentation be lively. Develop the interest of the learners in the presentation and the subject as well, so that the learners will come to realize that this subject, that course is very interesting. I want to be part of it. I want to pursue this course in higher learning and what have you. But the teacher himself or herself does not show any interest in what is being presented. How would the learners develop that interest? So when you go to the classroom, our advice to the teachers is that let your learners know that it is interesting to study such a course. It is interesting to study such a subject. It is lively. It can take you this place. It can take you there. The learners will always be interested in listening to you because they have already developed that interest. Do not threaten your learners to kill the interest they are going to develop in that particular subject. Do not kill the interest the learners might have developed in your subjects. All right. And other principle that I quickly want to look at has to do with the principle of review. Principle of review. Principle of review. The teacher should take note of this important principle. You have gone to do your presentation. How did the presentation go? That is where you try to review what you have done. How did it go? How do I find out? The teacher can decide to give a summary of what has been done, or the teacher can just pose a question to the learners to tell the class what they have learned so far. Yes, what did you say about this? And what did you say about this particular concept? And why did you say it is so? And from here, where do we go? Now, the learners will be able to tell you what they have got so far. And that can give you an insight into what you have done. Whether you did well or you didn't do well. So you have to review, and you don't have to wait for the whole presentation to end before you do that review. You can do the review in the course of it and at the end of it as well. So what we are trying to say is that if you are doing the review, get a summary, find out from the learners what they have learned. That will help you to know where they grasp the concept and where they have issues. So, in reviewing, we are saying make sure you find out from the learners what went on, what is it that they have done so far, what is it that they have learned so far, and you can also add what you think didn't go on as expected. So review what you have done. That one will also demonstrate whether you did a very good work or you didn't do a very good work. The last principle that I want to just dilate on has to do with the principle of appropriate and effective resources. The principle of appropriate and effective use of resources. The principle of appropriate and effective use of resources. I am going to teach a particular concept. I have a lot of resources at my disposal. But one thing that we should bear in mind is this. We have to select and we have to use the appropriate, in other words, the relevant resource materials, so that we will be described as effective in our teaching. If you think that any resource material can serve all purposes, then please, what you are saying is untrue. We have available resources, but there is that particular one that will lead to effectiveness of teaching. So pick the appropriate one, pick the relevant one. If you are going to find out how the learners can write legibly, I believe you can start using the sun tree, where the learner will start writing in the sun. And then you move from that one to my first copybook and those things before they start writing in their exercise books. So there are resources available, but there are appropriate ones for specific concepts. Not every resource material is good for every concept to be taught. We advise that in the course of teaching, yes, we have a lot of resources that we have to employ, but we should ensure that the ones we select will match what we are going to teach. You don't have to pick any resource materials because they said we should use resource materials. We should ensure to pick the appropriate resource materials so that we'll be effective in our presentation. But we should also remember this. If you pick the resource materials and we are unable to use them as intended, then we have failed. If you are going to use a particular resource material and you don't know how to operate, please, it is better for you to get a resource person to help you operate it. Either you learn how to operate it, or you invite a resource person to take you through, or ask the person to come and operate it at the right time for you. But make sure that whatever resource material you want to use, you know how to handle it. At the extreme where you are not conversant with it, it is good for you to invite a resource person to help you do that. I want to end with one last principle, and that is the principle of self-activity. Principle of self-activity. Principle of self-activity. You go to the classroom and you want to take your learners through a certain activity. What this principle says is that do the activity yourself. Do it yourself so that you be conversant with everything that is hidden wherever. And when you go to the classroom and you group your people to do activity, let them do the activities themselves. If the learners should do the activities themselves, it is very difficult for them to forget what they have learned. But if you go to the classroom and you want to do all the activities, please, then there is a problem. At least you can demonstrate how it is done. But let your learners lay their hands on what activity you want them to do. You can facilitate. Let me once again say that if they do the activities themselves, it will be very difficult to forget about the principle they have learned, about the concept they have learned, about the topic they have learned. So, don't let your teaching become too abstraction. Involve the learners in self-activities so that they will be able to grasp the concept you have presented. My dear friends, this morning we have looked at about 10 principles that will lead to effective teaching. And to recap, as one of the concepts that we presented, remember we said we have principle of review. And so I'm trying to review what we have done. So far, these are the principles that we have discussed. Principles of understanding. We have principle of appropriate and effective use of resources. We have the principle of self-activity. We have also talked of the principle of sequencing and continuity. There was also an explanation to the principle of selection. We also discussed principle of adequate preparation. We also looked at the principle of individual differences. We also talked of the principle of review. And we said we should also create an active learning environment. And we ended with the principle of interest. I will pause for now and wait for your contribution via 0503 92 31 58. Or you can also join the discussion through WhatsApp line 0503 92 3158 or through SMS using the same line. We are waiting for you. Good morning.
Windy Bay 98.3 FM.
This is Radio Windy Bay. Windy Bay 98.3 FM.
The radio station you can't live without. This is your radio. 98.3 FM.
Yeah, hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, you are welcome to our discussion.
Okay, sir. My name is Sewa Tariki from the Social Studies Department level. I don't see it, but I want to say a big kudos to your hard work.
Thank you very much. Very
Okay.
grateful. Thank you very much.
Windy Bay 98.3 FM.
All right. Good morning once again to all the level 200 students reading EDC 232 Principles and Practice of Teaching. You had earlier indicated that you can join this discussion through the following line 0503 92 3158.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
My name is Abigail from
Okay.
the Social Studies Department.
Abigail, Social Studies. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Looking at the principle of adequate preparation,
Yes.
if I got you clearly, you said a teacher who does not feel comfortable with or about a particular topic, third person to take or facilitate the learning.
Yeah.
And then now here's my question: how can a graduate teacher who has been through all the training to become a qualified teacher decide on which or what topics they can teach based on their feelings? I don't get that part.
Okay, so I will give explanation to you, but there's somebody on the line, so let's take that question and now. Hello. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Yes, your name and then your question.
Hello.
Hello, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Please, my name is Alexander Maudi Senior from the ICT Department,
Right.
level 200.
Okay.
Please, my question is on the principle of adequate preparation.
Okay.
So, in your presentation, you said in the principle of adequate preparation as a teacher, when you are going to the classroom, even if it is your field, you must study it
Sure.
very well. Now, the question is, if you study it very well and the resource to help you to teach in that particular school, you don't have it, what will you do?
Okay, thank you very much. Let me respond to these two questions. The first one was still on adequate preparation, and the second one was on adequate preparation. The lady was trying to find out if I have graduated and I'm to present a particular concept, how do I ask somebody to help me prepare or a resource person to help me teach that particular concept? I hope it is Abigail. Abigail, you agree with me that when the graduates get to senior high school, they tend to use the books meant for the students. They use the books meant for the students. And at the end of the day, I would describe the teachers as students as well, because the textbooks are for students. If you are doing adequate preparation, that book should help you, but you don't have to use it. Why don't you find other resource materials and put what is meant for the student together? Your presentation will be richer than using that book meant for the student. in terms of adequate preparation, I'm saying look for this resource material, look for that one, look for that one. Read all the 4 resource materials, blend them. Your presentation will be richer than using that book meant for the students. And you were also trying to find out how possible that somebody who has graduated in a particular subject will bring somebody to help in teaching that particular concept. Abigail, let me tell you that not everybody that will graduate from a particular university in a particular subject area will grasp all the concept expected of him or her. Some of them will jump. When they pick the syllabus, they know that I can teach this one, but that one I can't teach. They will jump. And so what I'm trying to say is that, yes, you graduated in that particular area. You might not be conversant to all the concepts. At least you need somebody to also add his idea to yours, and yours will be richer. If you are not sure of what you are going to teach, why don't you talk to those who also did social studies? They will also give you extra explanation, and then you add it. If you are to teach a particular concept and you are not also good at that, nothing prevents you from bringing a resource person to help you teach. And I'm not saying don't bring a resource person that is not in social studies. Bring that one in social studies. Don't bring somebody who is well versed in English to help you teach a concept in social studies. That is what I'm trying to say. And you have to do adequate preparation. Yes, that is your area. Things are changing. And Abigail, I know you also know that the way we have the previous one, if you also know that the matter can exist in 3 states, then revise your notes, because matter can now exist in 4 stages or states. We have the liquid, we have the gas, and then there's the 4th one, which is called the plasma. So if that is your area and you have not done further reading in terms of adequate preparation, you wouldn't know that there's a 4th state when we talk of matter. Yes, I am champion in my area of specialization, but I have to read further. That is the concept of adequate preparation that I chipped in. Thank you very much. Right. We are waiting for a caller, a message or 2, because time is fast spent, so that we will continue with our lectures in the classroom. Hello? I can hear you. Yeah, good morning. I can hear you. Your question?
Good morning, sir.
Yes, go ahead with your question.
My name is Yilmaz Fadil from Accounting Education class.
Okay. Go ahead, please, with your question.
Hello, sir.
I can hear you. Please go ahead with your question.
Okay. Please, my question is from principle of individual differences.
Okay.
Please, now we can think like, for example, like as we are doing radio lectures, now, let's assume that this deaf people is also inclusive. And then how do you take care of them too? Because sometimes when we are at lectures, maybe some of the teachers may said we will have a reading area or some areas, and then they said we have matured. So this place there you can do it. And then some through the teachings that we get the concept, individual differences through teachings that we get the concept from it. And then here is the case, you have now saying that we have matured, we should go and do it ourselves. Somebody cannot learn from his own unless through the teachings he is done. And then now here is the case, you are asking him to go and learn it without considering individual differences that some of them us cannot learn it on our own. So this kind of issues, how are we going to do with it?
Okay, thank you very much. There's another question. I will attend to your question. Hello? Hello? Hello, caller?
Hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Can you speak
Okay,
a bit
I'm
louder?
from the social studies department.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Please, concerning the principles of sequencing,
Yeah.
before as a teacher, you start with your lesson in the classroom. Can you first of all start introducing or telling them a story before the selection of the before the principles of selection? That is the lesson a particular content you do in the classroom. So can you start with the story, telling your students a story related to the selected content?
All right. I will respond to that. So I have two questions here. The first one has to do with the individual differences. And the second one was trying to find out whether I can tell a story prior to my presentation. Right. We say that when you go to the classroom, you review relevant previous knowledge of your students or your learners, because that is what you are going to build on. There are so many strategies by which you can review the relevant previous knowledge. Some will use questions, others will use activities. Yes, you can use stories, but what you have to do is that take note that you have indicated in your lesson note that I'm going to use 2 minutes to review the relevant previous knowledge. So the question is, how lengthy is your story? Is it 5 minutes? Is it even stated? Yes, so you can use stories, but make sure that it is short, because you want to build on their relevant previous knowledge. There was a question on relevant individual differences, and the person was trying to say that, yes, we are being told to ensure inclusivity. Yeah, and when we go for our lectures, we are told that we are mature enough to handle some of these things, but sometimes when we go to the field, the situations are different. What I'm trying to say is this. Sometimes the pace at which we even speak might be at disadvantage of others. The individual difference might also mean that we have slow learners. And so when we speak very, very fast, the slow learners might not get it. And so we should try to speak within a certain pace so that they can... Okay, let me take this call. I'll continue. Hello?
Okay, so it's Abigail again.
Yes, Abigail.
So thank you for the answer question.
Okay.
Thank you for answering it.
All right.
And with the principle of sequencing and continuity.
Yeah.
So way back in J, this topic that our teachers felt no, they weren't too much important of importance taught in the class. And meanwhile, it's like due to the explanation of sequencing and continuity, it's something that should come before another topic should come. But they decided not to teach that topic, and hey, they didn't teach it too. Then moving on, based on that, I want to ask that, were they wrong? Was it something they weren't getting right? Was it the training they had, or what?
Okay, I will answer that one.
And based on that answer, can we also go ahead and do that? I mean, since there are some of actually the topics in the syllabus that we think that is not really needed. Okay. So can we also try that?
I'll answer that. Okay. Hello, caller. Hello. Yes, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, your question.
My name is Napapi Sanja Solomon from Economics Department.
Yes, go ahead with
My
your question.
goes like this. We have some teachers that whenever they come to class, in the course of reviewing, if they should ask a student's question and they are not able to answer, they normally use punishment. If they should introduce a new topic, and if they ask and you are not able to answer, they punish you. And because of that, students, there is some fears in students whenever such a teacher comes to class. And some teachers are also there when they come to class, they don't normally use that thing. And because of that, students normally will ask questions and other things. But as to respond to the first one, when they come to class, students don't ask questions, but they also prepare adequately in a sense that if such teachers should ask a question, they should be able to answer in order not to be punished. So I want to ask, with respect to these two teachers, which one creates good environment for learning?
Okay, thank you very much. Let him start maybe by answering this one, the latest one, and then the others will come. My dear friend, what I want to tell you is that not all teachers are teachers. Some people decided to become teachers because teaching was the last resort. And from your psychology of human development and learning, what we are trying to say is that you don't have to punish the learner, but you have to find out why is it that the learner was unable to answer the question. Perhaps the way you framed the question was not the ideal one. Put it in a different way. Help the learner to get it. It is when the learner is unable to get it, then you map up strategy to teach that particular concept for the learner to answer. If you were using the question and the question didn't help, why don't you use an activity so that the learner will know that, oh, this is what you want to ask. If the activity didn't help, why don't you use examples? So, you see, we have strategies by which we can review the relevant previous knowledge. Before we start building on that, if you go to review the RPK and the learner is unable to answer a question, that does not call for punishment. The teacher should ask himself or herself, why is it that the learner was unable to answer? And so we will find antidote to that. There is no need for punishment. And take note that we don't have just one way of reviewing RPK. You go to use questions, but you have examples that you can also use. You also have an activity that you can use. You also have a story that you can tell, and they will bring out what they know so far as what you are going to present is concerned before you build on that. Now, let me go to the individual differences again. On the inclusivity, what we are trying to say is this. At this point, we are telling you that when you go to the classroom, you have different caliber of learners. Don't treat them the same way. There are certain people who need better help than others. If you are using a particular example, take note that there's some of them who are visually impaired. Ask yourself, would that help? If that is not going to help, why don't you use another strategy that will facilitate the getting the concept? There are certain people who are hearing impaired. They need certain help. Why don't you use another strategy that will facilitate the grasping the concept? So rather than assuming everybody should be treated equally, find better ways of handling these people with different background. Yeah, that is why in the University of Education, Winneba, at most of the courses or lectures where we have people with special needs, we have others who sign for them. And in my class, if I have such people, I speak or talk at a pace that will not be detrimental to them because I know I'm dealing with students with different background. In other words, I take care of the individual differences. I believe you have got it from this angle.
Windy Bay.
All right.
98.3 FM.
Much. We have got some messages. Let me read through and then we'll try answering them. I'm Victor Kofi Donyon from BSc Accounting Education. My question is about the principle of adequate preparation and sequencing. If the teacher's target was not to achieve by teaching to understanding of student, did the teacher have to repeat the topic again? What if the teacher didn't? Okay. Right, so let me take them one by one. If the intention of the teacher teacher is for the learners to understand. And it turned out that the student didn't understand. What that might also mean is that the strategy by which the teacher used was wrong. Perhaps you are thinking that everybody should grasp this concept, and you were using a particular example that didn't work. So why don't you vary your teaching strategy? Perhaps a particular example that you use didn't help. So why don't you vary the examples that you use? You are teaching for understanding. If you review the RPK, that alone should tell you whether you should go ahead with the topic you have decided to teach that day. If you didn't get the response you are looking for, it means if you go ahead to teach the concept you have prepared for the day, it will not work. Put the concept somewhere and teach a concept for them to get the foundation before you build on that. Okay, so we want to take the second SMS. That one also says, please, I'm brighter. Sorry, Bill Crying, offering accounting education. I want to ask for the Bible verse you started with. And the Bible verse is Malachi chapter 3, verse 10. All right. Thank you very much. The next message says, I'm bright. Agree. Good morning, sir. Offering accounting. That is a Bible message. The first one, I've treated it. So, Alexander, ICT department, I believe you have answered most of them. My name is Augustine Talik from Social Studies. Principle of review. What happens when your students are unable to recollect what you have said? All right. So what we are trying to say is that in your lesson notes, you don't state in such a way that you use plural. You say by the end of the lesson, a student, the people, the learner, you are aiming at one. You are not aiming at the plural. Because not everybody will see what you have seen. So you aim at one person. Again, I don't want to sound a little bit biblical, but I know that when Jesus Christ met the woman at the well, and the message was given, the woman went round and almost the whole community got it. So in the teaching learning process, we are aiming at one. We believe that once one person gets it, the other members of the class can get it. So by the end of the lesson, the learner will be able to do A, B, C, D. And so if in your review, one person is able to tell you what has happened in the classroom, please, you have achieved that objective. Thank you very much.
98.
All right, there's another one from Prisla, also from Social Studies Department. I want to ask if the selection of review can fall under professional values and attitudes in terms of professional development of the three domains of the NTS. Right. When it comes to the NTS, it's a topic on its own. Do not let us blend them. If you remember the principle of sequencing and continuity, then we are saying that we move from 1 to 2. We don't jump 2 and go to 10. Prisla, relax. We shall take you through that one. Thank you. All right.
98.3 FM. 98.3 FM. The radio station you can't live without. This is your radio.
98.3 FM.
Windy Bay. 98.3 FM.
On the frequency 98.3 FM. This is Radio Windy Bay. Windy Bay 98.3 FM.
Thank you very much. We are getting ready to move out of the studio for another program, but I can't do without attending to some of the SMS that we have received. One says, I have a deviant behavior learner in the class. And how do I teach such a person to understand? Another one has to do with the interest. So let me take them one by one. Deviant behavior. All that you have to do is mostly you assign such a responsibility to such a person. Engage the person. The person has a deviant behavior. It also boils down to the classroom management. Reposition the child in such a way that the person is closer to you. You can give him or her an activity. The person is closer to you. You'll be monitoring. And you can deal with the deviant behavior. Now, on the principle of interest, I go to lectures and I make sure that whatever I'm presenting, I demonstrate that I have interest in what I'm doing. If the person who is doing that thing does not show any interest, how would the learners be? Yeah, so when I go to teach my student, I sell my course, I sell my subject, and make sure that I make the presentation very, very simple so that you can grasp it. By that, you'll be developing interest in that. That is different from those who will go to lectures and make sure that the course becomes so difficult. And then they will be telling their predecessors, as for this course, if you are not careful, you will fail. No, that is not a good practice. Let them know that it is easy for you to just score A in this particular one because the person will just explain to the earth for you. All right. So please, that is what I want to suggest. If you go to the classroom, let them know that you are in control of your course or subject, and then create a congenial atmosphere for them to know that they are part of the class. Do not sound too bookish. Relate the concept that you are presenting to the outside world so that when they leave the classroom, they know that the concept they have learned is still found outside there. It is not just restricted to the classroom situation. So most of my examples are such that, you love my class. I believe time is fast spent, and let me say good morning to all the crew members. I can't go without say hello to Collins Kofi Auku, the boss for this particular sector or unit. Let him say hello to Bismarck and then his able supporting staff. I can't go without saying hi to the anchor man, Bright Fuga. I know we have an unfinished business. Yes, and then the last one to the Vice Chancellor, Professor Mauta Avoke, the Pro Vice Chancellor, my able dean, Professor Dandy George Damson, and all the good people at educational foundations to come your way next week with the same radio lecture. It's me, your chief and servant in principles and practice of teaching, EFFRIM. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much as well. Doc, you and I know, like you mentioned, I'm not supposed to do this, but I'm forced to get back to you. For those probably who have not learned the experiences and all of that, this is a testament of masterclass radio lecture delivery right here this very morning. Doc, before you go, we are all in this together. Your bits and pieces of advice you'd want to share with the new ones that have joined us here on the campus There are various campuses as well. Let me be careful because the Jumaku campus happens to be also part of our great family as well. It's a lovely family, University of Education, Winneba, characterized by the three dominant colors, red, blue, and white as well. Your pieces of advice you'd want to share with the freshmen and women getting ready to go through the initiation rite, dubbed matriculation ceremony.
Thank you very much to all fresh students. What I want to tell you is this. Go back to your admission letter and you will see one particular name, and that name is yours, apart from the person who signed it. It suggests that when you come here, you go back the same you came. You are not going to be given certificate bearing a lot of people's name, but that's your name. So put up a good character. Know the reason why you are here. Make sure that whatever they have spent on you, you use it judiciously, because when you go back home, you have to give account of your stewardship here. Life on campus is said that this is a new environment. Go through, pick the good ones, throw the bad ones away, so that by the time you get back home, you are a refined person. Then the other philosophy I want to share with you is this. Please, allow the university to go through you. Don't go through the university. If I say allow the university to go through you, then it means that you are going to learn the moral values, the virtues, the good things from here, so that by the time you get back, you are a refined person. But if you go through the university system, it means that you are not going to learn anything from here. I wish you the best of your stay here.